Headlines this hour. Former ANC President Thabo Mbeki is on a two-day mission to the Free State, where he's meeting party leaders in an effort to boost the ANC's fortunes in this province. A major operation against illegal mining in Pilgrims Rest in Malanga has got off the ground after police were forced to retreat 2 weeks ago. And residents of Danville in Mahikeng say drugs have turned the township into a crime zone. Good afternoon, this is Week in Review. Welcome from our studio in Johannesburg. We will spend the next 2 hours reviewing some of the biggest stories of the week. I am Gustav Reiling and we invite you to participate. You can share your comments or ask your own questions. Our studio number is 011 714 0680, 0681 or 0682. Right, the future of the ANC depends heavily on the renewal of the party. This is according to former ANC President Thabo Mbeki. He was speaking during the ANC Provincial Executive Committee renewal convocation in Welkom in the Free State. Mbeki said the challenges faced by the ANC in this province stem from a lack of renewal.
When we talk about renewal of the ANC now, that's a challenge we face. A year or so ago, I was talking to a comrade who has just been elected as a provincial chair of the ANC. I was talking to him about renewal of the ANC and some of the challenges and why this thing is necessary. The kind of person in the movement who really ought not to be in the movement. So after this presentation, this comrade says to me, now, Comrade President, in terms of my province, in terms of these people you say should not be in the movement but are card carriers, you are talking about 60% of our membership in my province. The ones I would say are genuinely ANC 40%. The renewal process then becomes critical. Tammy said, Tambo said, we must sweep the movement. And Matiba said, we must purge.
Residents of the Danville township in Mahikeng in the northwest have urged police to rid the area of drug users and dealers. They say crime is rife and that they constantly fear falling victim to robbers and rapists.
A community in distress. Many here fear for their lives. Criminals reportedly use these spots to indulge in drugs before engaging in their criminal ways.
During the night, we can't sleep. It's very dangerous here. They move around the whole night. They are sleeping here in those holes. As you can see that hole there. They are sleeping here. They are robbing the people in town, coming around. They hide here.
Our kids are in trouble. Our elderly people are in trouble on a daily basis. They don't even rob you at night. They do it during the day. And we really ask and plea and beg for the authorities to come to our help.
Others say raising children here is not ideal.
We can't even go to town, then they rob us. We have to ask people to walk with us to town. It's dangerous in this side.
We can't move anywhere. We can't even go to town because people get robbed. Our elderly people get stabbed, they get robbed. So we are not safe. So for me to stay here and to raise my child here, it's not an option.
Those who speak out against these crimes have become targets themselves.
Yeah, we're fighting against the guys that are doing drugs and all that kind of things. Yeah, the guys are having also hit lists for we as a community service night watch, and we try to stop this in our community, but it seems like the guys are becoming stronger and getting more stronger. Yeah.
Police have advised that locals report all the cases of crime in their area.
While it is our responsibility to prevent and investigate crime, we are unable to be at all the places all the time. We therefore urge members of the community to report such incidents or criminality so that necessary steps can be taken, including to arrest those who are responsible. The community is further requested to report or bring this to the attention of the Community Police Forum or any other recognized structure that is there to assist in the fight against crime.
This community is also calling on the authorities to help them eradicate the dealing in and use of drugs and crime in general. Itumeleng Khajane, SABC News, Denville in Mahikeng.
A major operation against illegal mining in Pilgrims Rest in Malanga has got off the ground after being forced to retreat 2 weeks ago. Police and Defence Force members arrested at least 16 suspects.
A town under siege. Undeterred illegal miners are mining everywhere, spoiling the provincial heritage site with a very colorful and exciting history. The area attracted prospectors looking for the shiny stone in 1873. Now illegal miners have descended on this town. Police returned to the town accompanied by the soldiers. The miners were searched from above and on foot. Several illegal miners were nabbed.
And it's not going to be an end today. We are still going to come back and do the operation. As far as successes are concerned, I can say really we still go on with the same thing of the confiscation, and we know very well without they will be back again and they will proceed with whatever they are doing. So we need as well to look to issues of making sure that we close those who are suppliers.
A helicopter hovered above the sky trying to spot the illegal miners who are armed to the teeth.
We are going to pay special attention and deal with this matter because we want to build the economy of this province. So these barbaric actions of people that they will come here to Mpumalanga uninvited from Lesotho, from Mozambique and from Zimbabwe, that they will come here and terrorize our people, we will not accept.
The illegal mining activities threaten the livelihood of many, as many residents depend on tourism for survival. And since the Zamazamas rushed here, tourists are avoiding the town.
Generally, we are happy, but it's an ongoing process. It's not going to be end today. We are continuing to do the operation. We'll come back unannounced again, as we want to achieve and reclaim the space here from the Zamazamas.
Police have vowed to continue with their operation against the illegal miners through the Operation Valaumgodi. Nhlamulo Mabasa, SABC News, Pilgrims Rest.
Welcome back. Now, workers belonging to various retirement funds continue to flock to the offices of their fund managers to physically inquire about their two-pot retirement withdrawal. Pension fund managers have reported thousands of walk-ins at their offices, with some workers citing problems with the online services as a reason to inquire in person. Now, some fund managers like Momentum and Old Mutual say they're to strengthen their online platforms in a bid to manage the influx of claimants to their offices countrywide. SABC News economics reporter Katlego Legori has the story.
Some workers are losing patience with the slow pace to process their two-pot retirement funds. Others are now converging at the offices of their retirement fund managers, hoping to expedite the process. Many are using the online services available. Old Mutual has recorded over 200,000 claimants visiting their online portal, with others opting to physically approach their offices since the 1st of September.
So at this stage, it's been very busy. I mean, just to give you an idea in terms of our WhatsApp channel, we've had over 200,000 customers go to our WhatsApp channel to check two-pot and two-pot values since the 1st of September, but we've had no performance issues so far in terms of those volumes. The focus has very much been from our customers around understanding, let me update my customer details, how do I claim, how will the process work? So that's been where a lot of the conversation has been. Of course, as always, there's a lot of upsets around when they start seeing the indication of what their tax deduction will be. That has created a bit of noise because I think that is a lot higher than people were expecting.
Momentum Retirement Fund administrators say they too have been inundated with visits. The fund manager says it anticipated the influx and had to be innovative in handling the process.
Quite a significant change for all of us, and including our members of retirement funds. So this change is something that needs to be explained, talked through, understood. And while we understand some would like to get some of the savings pot available, it's also understanding the longer-term implications of the withdrawals that might have. So what we are seeing is a combination of things. Some understand what's happening, others might have more questions, and we just patiently talk them through those and assist in whatever shape or form they need assistance with at this point in time, even if it's from an understanding perspective or from a withdrawal perspective.
Financial difficulties experienced by workers has been the main reason for accessing the funds. The companies have emphasized that the savings pot is intended to serve as a safety net rather than a primary source of income. But the reality on the ground is different, as workers say the money will go a long way in reducing their debt.
I was here to put something. So now everything is fine with my side, because I'm bringing all the documents they want inside here. So everything is fine by my side. A copy of ID, your SARS tax number, and your 1 month statement, so that they can send your money with your account. So everything I bring them here. Too much too much.
The process went well. I'm happy that I will get my money after 21 days. It went well. I use WhatsApp and I don't owe SARS anything.
Everything is clear.
COSATU, the largest trade union federation, says it has been a smooth sail so far for most of its members, but not all is good. The federation has taken the Municipal Employees Pension Fund to the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, accusing the organization of misusing workers' contributions.
It's been going well from the reports we've been getting. It's been going well. The government pension fund said on Monday that they had received 1,000 applications already. The motor industry also seems to be doing well. They've been processing, and so I think you've also heard that SARS has also indicated the number of tax directive applications that they've gotten. So workers were obviously waiting for the 1st of September. So the big concern is with the Municipal Employees Pension Fund.
There are strong calls for financial literacy and more patience from pension fund members as the process continues. Katlego Logodi, SABC News in Johannesburg.
Right now, the South African economy grew by 0.4% in the second quarter of this year, in line with analysts' expectations. In the first quarter, the local economy recorded 0% expansion. The latest figures have been described by some as a turning point for the economy, following years of sluggish growth and rising inflation. However, there are concerns about the low levels of fixed investments. The Bureau for Economic Research expects the economy to grow by 1% this year, followed by 2% in the next year.
Analysts say the latest growth figures point to renewed energy security achieved since March this year. This has helped the country's growth performance to gradually cross an important threshold. 7 out of 10 industries recorded positive growth between the first and the second quarter. The finance industry was the biggest contributor, followed by trade, manufacturing and electricity. Experts say the latest GDP number sets a positive tone for the overall economic performance for the country this year.
The data would not give the Reserve Bank any undue cause to reconsider an interest rate cut in September. Instead, we expect a 25 basis point interest rate cut to go ahead at the September MPC meeting later this month.
We can see that another industry that grew in the positive was utilities, as in electricity, gas and water. It went up by 3.1% and contributing 0.1 of a percentage point. Other industries that contributed 0.1 of a percentage point are trade as well as manufacturing.
However, not all sectors performed well. The transport industry was the main negative contributor, decreasing by 2.2%. It was followed by agriculture and mining industries. While household and government expenditure increased during the period, fixed investment by government and the private sector fell by 1.4%.
If you look at the capital investment, that figure is negative, and that's where the future growth has to come from. in the longer term. We want both the public and the private sector to expedite their infrastructural plans or their investment plans so that we can get the job-rich growth that we want.
We had positive growth in consumer spending, but unfortunately a contraction in real fixed investment, specifically contraction in the private sector's fixed investment in the second quarter. But of course, towards the end of this quarter, we had quite important political developments with the formation of the Government of National Unity as well as the appointment of the new cabinet. And so since this data, there has been a change in sentiment and an expectation that we'll see further traction with growth reforms and ultimately higher trend growth.
So far, most economic indicators look favorable for the consumer. Experts believe that the continued inflation moderation will pave a way for an interest rate cut later this month. The currency has been strong against the US dollar, and this has made it possible for motorists to get their third consecutive fuel price cut this month. Diabosito, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Welcome back. Now, Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Thembi Simelane has told Parliament she has nothing to hide. Simelane has appeared before the Portfolio Committee to explain what's been described as a dodgy loan which she received from a service provider connected to VBS Mutual Bank. Now, the minister told MPs she didn't see any problem with the loan, even though it was given to her by an entity which was not a registered credit provider.
I have nothing to hide. That's why I am here. But the sitting itself has its own positioning. It is not an inquiry, which I respect. It's a sitting of the committee getting an explanation from the minister. And that is why I am here in my capacity as the minister today.
This is the minister's story, and she's sticking to it. The saga started in 2016 during Simelane's tenure as Polokwane mayor. In this time, the municipality invested 349 million rand with VBS Mutual Bank. That same year, Simelane acquired a loan of 575,000 rand from Gundo Wealth Solutions, with which she bought a coffee shop. The Hawks are now following the money trail between the owner of Gundo, Ralium Razwinane, and VBS. As part of the investigation and corruption trial of the 2018 VBS scandal, MPs want answers.
The timing thereof is exceptionally suspicious. Money flows from the municipality to VBS, money flows from VBS to Gundo, money flows from Gundo to the purchase of the coffee shop, all in the space of a very short period of time. It may be a coincidence, but in a long time of operating in the criminal justice system, I've learned to be very suspicious of a confluence of coincidences. And normally, they point to trouble.
Did you declare the loan when you were the mayor of Polokwane to the municipality, because you were a public office bearer? Did you declare it when you were a minister in the previous administration, in your members' declaration? And did you declare ownership of the coffee shop and bistro in that declaration?
But given the allegations and given the investigation into VBS and the large numbers of prosecutions, and now given what you have indicated to ourselves, and given the fact that Hawks are today further investigating, there is, in my view, a glaring conflict of interest.
Minister, can you assure this committee that should matters involving VBS land on your table, you will respond to them impartially, in a manner that does not compromise the investigation?
And then, in our language, if a person offers a credit while is not registered, we call that person umashonisa. Would I be correct, Minister, if I say you borrowed, if we were to take your version, will I be correct if I say you borrowed from umashonisa?
You know, I would also say it's a movie which is always repeating itself, and we're watching it over and over in this country. And unfortunately, it involves almost same actors in this particular movie, because you would understand that indeed it's a very serious issue which we need to check into.
Simelane says she wasn't aware of where the loan came from and didn't see it as being a conflict of interest, which is why she didn't declare it when she became Justice Minister. Another sticking point is, why would she acquire a loan from an institution which is not registered as a credit provider?
I loaned from Gundu, not from VPS. I loaned from Gundu. My contract is with Gundu, not with VPS. So that's where the distinction is. And I regret the harm it has caused the people of a vendor in particular.
The minister to respond. You can respond.
Because this was not an inquiry, the committee will be seeking legal advice about whether it can request any statements related to the loan and how it was repaid. But MPs are concerned that should this matter be referred to the NPA, there would be a conflict of interest. Simelane disagrees. When asked if she would step aside or resign until the matter is cleared up, she said that would be up to President Cyril Ramaphosa to decide. Abra Babia, SABC News, Parliament.
Right. Residents of Ga-Rankuwa, north of Pretoria, say the construction and refurbishment of a multi-million rand shopping mall in the township seems far from complete. They say the project has stalled due to the challenges with the previous contractor and the so-called construction mafia who demand a share of the project. According to research, about 183 infrastructure and construction projects in South Africa worth over 60 billion rand have been affected by the construction mafia.
Situated about 37 kilometers northwest of Pretoria, the project was initiated by the Public Investment Corporation on behalf of the Government Employees Pension Fund in 2019 and involved an extension of about 20,000 square meters and a refurbishment of the existing 37,000 square meters shopping mall. But it is alleged that it has been infiltrated by the so-called construction mafias. The project has also seen protests from disgruntled workers demanding payments. Residents say construction hasn't been taking place on site for months now.
I think even the government need to take an effort working on the ground and, for example, establishing intelligence to face out those kind of behavior that we are facing as South Africans.
I feel very hurt as we have to go shopping in Mabopane and further places. The mall has been on standstill for a while.
They can maybe one day they can come and have a discussion with us as a community, but Carlos says what's going on.
The mall's managing agent, Moana Properties, referred inquiries to the PIC, which is the owner, but no correspondence was received from the entity at the time of broadcast. Whilst incidents of extortion are fast becoming a daily occurrence in the country, more concerning is how this phenomenon is affecting communities and crippling the country's economic stability. Some security experts say it is here to stay if not carefully addressed.
This crime will never come to an end when we don't put the necessary strategies and tactics to deal with it. As it is going now, we are going to continuously have this kind of a problem because of the way in which we are managing this crime. We are policing this crime. We are prosecuting this crime. I believe that as time goes on, we will then be in a position to can look back and look at what is it that made it so difficult for this crime to can be stopped.
The Institute for Security Studies, however, says there's now a political will in tackling this problem.
We have seen some arrests in some provinces, but of course it is, like many other crimes, quite overwhelming for the police. That cannot be everywhere. But we are seeing more political will to come to terms with these type of extortion groups. And it's really important that we do, as they take away business from legitimate businesses at a community or grassroots level.
According to the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project of 2022, 183 infrastructure and construction projects worth more than 63 billion rand have been affected by the construction mafia in the country. Meanwhile, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu recently said that SABC is seeking an inclusive approach to combat the country's worsening situation. But for Ga-Rankuwa residents, despite providing a better shopping experience for the community, the mall was also aimed at boosting employment, especially amongst the youth in the township. Molimo wa Onemotwa, SABC News, Ga-Rankuwa.
Welcome back. The Malanga Tourism and Parks Agency and Sandparks have confirmed that the 6 elephants which escaped have been returned to the Kruger National Park. They had escaped after injuring one person. The agency says the attempts to push the elephants back into the park failed twice. They say operations were partly disrupted by community members and motorists.
The elephants are said to have escaped through the Pabeni Gate. 17-year-old Nzala Mandlovu almost met his maker after an elephant attacked him here. He sustained blunt force injury to the chest, resulting in a left lung collapse. Ndlovu says the elephant caught him off guard and is still traumatized.
I was going to collect some tomatoes in the farm, and then I was busy on the phone with some call, and then when I realized people were screaming, running away, and when I looked back, I saw an elephant, and they started chasing me and pull out a tree and throw it against me. And then it trapped me with their tramples. And then some other people helped me to escape.
Ndlovu's parents say they are happy he escaped. She says, now I feel better than yesterday. God is good. We are grateful that he's alive, and at the hospital they managed to attend to him quickly. I was scared thinking that he has died. MTPA has confirmed that all the elephants have returned back to the park.
We can confirm that all the 6 elephants went back to the park, and we also want to make a plea and appeal with the community not to disrupt or disturb the authorities when they are doing their job.
The Malanga Tourism and Parks Agency has urged residents living near the Kruger National Park to be cautious at all times. Nhlamulo Mabasa, SABC News, Mkhuhlu.
Right, 3 suspects have been shot and killed by police in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. It's alleged that they were part of a ring of extortionists who were demanding a protection fee from local residents. Now, SABC News reporter Fundiswa Mtlekude spoke to the OR Tambo District Commissioner, Lieutenant General Phumzile Sityana.
Members of the police that are dealing with extortion-related cases, that we call the extortion-related members that are dealing with extortion. We're busy with some patrols, disruptive operations in the area of Mthatha West, Mandela Park to be specific. During the search, they happened to search a vehicle that was claimed to be a vehicle of the so-called traditional leader of the area. The search continued, and they found firearms. Those firearms were found to be having permits. Later on, the police withdrew back to their base. When they arrived at the base, they noticed that they are being followed by 2 vehicles. Inside the base, a challenge took place. Apparently, the occupants of the 2 vehicles asked some question as to why they are being harassed. An argument ensued, and there was a shootout out of that.
So it's the suspects who shot first at the police?
It is the suspect, allegedly, who shot first at the police. Mm-hmm. As a result, one of the police officers was injured in the leg, and the the shooting resulted in 3 of the occupants being shot and fatally wounded.
Okay, we understand that one of the suspects who were fatally killed is the traditional leader of Mthatha West called Dalinzolo Mareke, who was alleged to be the extortionist in the area. Can you confirm the name of the other 2?
No, at this stage we cannot confirm the name of the other 2, but the one, the so-called the traditional leader, has been identified as Mareke, and he has always been notorious for the cases of extortion in the area.
Right, now, today we are tackling the story that's shaken the very foundations of traditional leadership in South Africa. The recent shootout there in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape has left 3 people dead, including then the controversial traditional leader Nkosi Dalinzolo Mareke, as you just heard there. But this is more than just a tale of violence and tragedy. It's a story of power struggles, extortion, and the complex web of traditional leadership that's left many rural communities in the shadows. Mareke's reign was marked by allegations of extortion and intimidation. He was accused of masterminding schemes to demand protection fees from schools and businesses. But what drove him to this point? And what does his story reveal about the state of traditional leadership in our country? Joining me this afternoon is Advocate Nkosi Mvelo-Nkonkonyana, who is a Pondo traditional leader and is a renowned expert on traditional leadership and the Mthatha community. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to you and to all the viewers.
Can you provide some context to the traditional leadership structure there in that Mthatha area and how it relates to the events that unfolded?
Thank you so much. I can say we are flabbergasted, actually outraged, that Mareke is referred to as a traditional leader. And His Majesty the King of our Tembu, King Dalindyebo, did actually say to the nation, we don't have a traditional leader like that. In fact, even ourselves in the Eastern Cape, we know he is not a traditional leader. There are people who have fought so hard for the institution of traditional leadership to be restored to its former glory. There are people who are actually portraying themselves as traditional leaders. Yes, we also received some voice notes from him and calling people to his great place, so-called. I can tell you that he has no such traditional authority there in that area. And fortunately, as a former advocate, we were practicing in them. I know that that area was a farm, and the old people were my clients. And we have not as yet installed any traditional institution in that area.
Okay, so let's talk about that. And if he wasn't a traditional leader, then what was his role in this community, and how did his leadership basically impact the people of that area? It's Mthatha West.
What is actually happening? What actually happened, not only there, in many other areas, there are people, particularly in peri-urban areas, who are actually organizing themselves and arming themselves and putting themselves in leadership position. And unfortunately, the people themselves do actually support those people, because we're told he's, I think, one of the many that portrayed came out in that area as leaders and democratically so-called elected. And you find that there's intimidation, people are actually tortured, and they are living in extreme fear. Hence, the send monies that were actually demanded from people themselves and to defend and also to really fund that traditional leader. And because traditional leaders are recognized by royal families, and royal families are, of course, confirmed by the state through the Department of Copta in the Eastern Cape province, we don't have such a person. It is quite clear, sir, that people are actually taking advantage of our democratic dispensation. They undermine the law, they take the law into their own hands, and now in this instance, they even challenge the police. And to us, that cannot happen because our struggle was a struggle for peace. And we've got a democratic government that is really caring for the people. And there's no ground for anyone to take the law into his own hands. And really, we are taking grievous exception that that person is actually associated with the institution of traditional leadership. And we want just to tell everyone that we, even with the Minister of Police, as you may know, he was there, Minister Mchunu and the generals, and we agreed that we are going to work hand in glove with them to flush out all the criminal elements in the entire country, particularly in the Dalindyebo region or Tambo region, as well as Nelson Mandela region in the Eastern Cape. That is why, therefore, we are calling upon people to desist from taking it into their own hands. People must respect the law in this country. Police must be asserted, because yesterday we received a report that a policeman who was just actually going in that area was attacked, which clearly means that there are people who are actually organizing themselves to really retaliate and hit the kill the police. We are calling upon them to stop that, because if there is any complaint, there are actually structures by our democratic government where they must actually go and report so that those cases can be investigated and justice take its own course.
So in that case, then, how prevalent is extortion and intimidation with this phenomenon, people calling themselves traditional leaders then, and in any place, and what factors contribute to this behavior?
Yes, you see, it is painful because we do have scars. Some of traditional leaders are no more because we're fighting for the institution. And many of those people were actually saying this institution must be done away with in the democratic dispensation. And it is hurting that it is only those people who are actually
We're struggling to hear him there. We're trying to have this conversation, but we have a network issue in that Mthatha area, and I can see he's still there on the line, but it seems as though it's frozen. So we'll see if we can continue with this conversation about the extortion there in that Mthatha West area. He says this person was not a traditional leader, and we're talking, it seems as though the network is back there. Can you hear me now at this stage? It seems we're struggling to hear him there, but we'll try and continue this conversation when we can. In the meantime, you're watching Week in Review here on the SABC News Channel. We'll see you right after this. Welcome back. Let's move abroad now. And President Cyril Ramaphosa says the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit was an eye-opener for members of cabinet who had previously occupied the opposition benches and were critical of China. The president has also again defended his decision to set up a government of national unity. SABC News international editor Sophie Mokoena is in Beijing in China, and she compiled this report.
Once a poor country, China is now the second largest economy in the world. But Beijing is often criticized by Western powers for its style of democracy. The issue of Taiwan is another sore point. South Africa remains committed to respecting the One China policy.
We were also able to share perspectives with President Xi Jinping on the 7th administration that we were just elected into, and briefed him on the setting up of the Government of National Unity and how it is structured, and also in the course of our discussions waylay concerns that they may have had about South Africa's foreign policy towards China. We assured him that South Africa will continue to adhere to the policy that we have had for over 30 years of recognizing a One China policy. And we assured him that the coming in of the other 9 parties in a government of national unity would not dilute or erase our policy positions. And in fact, last night I had the opportunity to inform him that even one of the leaders of the parties that we are now joined in with in the government of national unity, who initially was not so well disposed to a one China policy, having visited China for the very first time, and for the very first time as one of my ministers, publicly said that he now subscribes and embraces a one China policy.
The South African delegation included DA members who are now in cabinet. The party has been critical of China in the past. The question now is, have they found their Damascus moment?
We made it a point that the delegation must be representative of the government of national unity in some shape or form. And we were very fortunate to have ministers, some of whom were, coming to China for the very first time. And in the past, they may well have had their own illusions and concepts about China, and when they got here, they saw for themselves. Their minds were blown, and they said, "We didn't know that this country is as capable as this." And then I think that's when for many the penny dropped, as they say in English. As the penny dropped, then you begin to, that's the word you used, open their eyes.
The president believes the government of national unity was the correct move.
So for us, this is good. This proves the correctness of having taken the decision that we did to stabilize the country and to take the country forward. It was quite testing and difficult decision to take, but the people of South Africa had decided that this should be the new political architecture or governance architecture in our country, and we've embraced it, and we will continue to see some benefits of it as people in the various 9 political parties, 10 political parties will be sharing views and experiences and aspirations and all that. So it is a change process, a transformative process that, in my view, is going to behove well for South Africa and the people of South Africa. And we should be grateful that this is a new era and a new process that we are all involved in.
Sophie Mkweli, SABC News, Beijing, China.
Right, let's now move back to our earlier conversation about the extortion in the Mthatha West area. We were talking there to Advocate Nkosi Mbwelo Nonkonyana. The technology there, the network issue in Mthatha was a problem earlier, but we have him back on the line now. And earlier he told us that this person, Dalinzolo Mareke, is not really a traditional leader. So I want to continue the conversation and ask you, what are the challenges faced by rural communities in terms of governance and accountability, and in terms of the area not becoming lawless?
Well, like all communities in the country, we face challenges of ragamuffins and criminals that are taking advantage of the democratic dispensation, as I've already indicated. And we have been telling and actually haranguing our own democratic government to recognize the institution of traditional leaders. For instance, there are many people who are calling themselves traditional leaders here. They are royal highnesses. And clearly, because there's no statutory provisions to criminalize those things. Yes, yet we have fought so hard for this institution to be where it is today. And but notwithstanding that, we're very happy because the government, realizing that we have got a legitimate concerns and is addressing these things, taking steps to address this thing in the Eastern Cape before this end of this year. We're hoping to have a traditional leaders summit with SALGA and all spheres of government, with a view that we can come up with a plan to make sure that the democratic dispensation and is protected, including the institution, so that we're part of a developmental state and we make sure that our people, especially in rural and urban areas, even urban areas for that matter, they live in peace. And we fought against those criminals. That is why we had no hesitation to indicate to Minister Mkhunu and all the generals and other people that we, the institution of traditionalism, will work with them. And we're calling upon the government to actually put into operation traditional policing in the country to make sure that we do have a police station in every great place in the country to work hand in glove with our government. And the intelligence sources have revealed that because they are government buildings, particularly in Mthatha, some of them were told they have got a sort of their own headquarters. That it cannot be. And it is important that we must make sure that all those government buildings, particularly that belong to the then Transkei Development Corporation, which has been taken over by the Eastern Cape Development Corporation, has been used. And one of the other hotels that was there has been used as a sort of a capital. That is why, therefore, we would like our people themselves to really cooperate with the police to flush out those things. And calling upon even the people who have taken the law into our court, they are our own people. We cannot disown them. But they must respect the law. They must support the police. And because until and unless we have got a climate that is conducive to development, we are not going to achieve the dream of a developmental state, and we're not going to achieve what we want to achieve of having a better life in any community in the country. That is why we're calling upon those people, even those people that actually we have been told that they are organizing themselves to gang up and to hit back, that no, they should not do that. Our people must actually follow the law. If they feel that the police have done anything wrong, there are structures in the government that can investigate that, because our police, as far as we're concerned, they've got the duty to protect everyone, including themselves, so that they can get work, they can get employment, and can push back the frontiers of property in our country. Hence, we as Congress of Traditional Leaders in this country, and with all our royalty all over South Africa, we are really concerned about this, that our people must really respect the law in South Africa. And if there are any legitimate concerns, there are platforms where they can raise those, and we are here to actually assist them so that everyone can really get a better life that it deserves. Because this freedom is freedom that has been achieved at the expense of the lives of our forebears, mothers and women, who actually sacrifice their own life for us to live in peace. We cannot, therefore, agree that the criminals should actually take the advantage of that situation and therefore initiate war against peace-loving South Africans. Hence, we must make it crystal clear as traditional leaders in the country that people must respect the law. We must assist the police. I think the Honorable Minister and all the generals are really committed to take further the steps that have been taken by the sixth administration to make sure that everyone lives in peace rather than in pieces. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. But I just want to ask you as well, because you mentioned a lot about police action. On a practical level, what can the communities do? What can be done to prevent similar incidents in the future? And how can those communities themselves hold the leaders or the people accountable? How do you get respect for the law?
Well, clearly, there are structures. There are traditional structures, and people And if there's any other thing that is actually happening, they must be able to report to the authorities immediately. Because I can tell you, the people are actually tired of the criminals. Hence, they would really take their law into their own hands. Because sometimes even the criminal justice system let us down sometimes, and then we take then the criminals to them and they release them on or either on warning. You take a well-known criminal there and then it's released tomorrow. But anyway, we have raised that with the government with a view to attend to that. But we are now also understand the concern of the Department of Correctional Services that they don't have that capacity. But I think it is incumbent upon everyone in South Africa to defend the fruits of democracy by actually holding hands. And if there are any criminals in each and every home, in each and every village, in each and every area in South Africa, to be able to be exposed. They must be named and shamed, because we would like to live in peace. We would like to have a situation where this country, it is conducive for the investors to come with a view that the people can get employment and indeed we can enjoy the fruits of liberty in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for affording us, and I hope therefore that we are not going. SAB is not going to use the name of a chief involved in any criminal activity without consulting us.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us there this afternoon from the Mthatha area. That was Advocate Nkosi Mwelo Nonkonyana, the Ponde traditional leader and expert on traditional leadership. You're watching Week in Review on the SABC News channel. Stay with us. The news will continue at the top of the hour. Headlines this hour. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Thembi Simelane has told Parliament that she has nothing to hide. Former Chief Justice Raymond Zondo says there is a real possibility that state capture can recur in South Africa. And the number of cases of bilharzia in villages around Tzaneen in Limpopo has risen to over 150. Welcome back. This is Week in Review, live with you from our Johannesburg studio. I'm Gustav Freiling. Good afternoon, and remember that you can join our discussions. Call us here in the studio and we may just speak to you. The number is 011 714 0680, 0681 or 0682. Former Chief Justice Raymond Zondo says there is a real possibility that state capture can recur in South Africa. Speaking to SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeja in an exclusive interview, Zondo said no mechanism had been put in place to prevent the capture of the state, only to prosecute its aftermath.
There was a task team that would look at various possible structures. I'm not aware that it has finalized its job. I think that is the council, anti-corruption council that he established. So we wait to see what structures he decides upon that will fight corruption. So the pace is not what it should be. I see a lot of people who, against whom findings were made in the commission, who are in Parliament, and I wonder whether it's coincidental or whether there is any attempt by anybody to weaken Parliament. And we know that the way that the state capture of the Guptas and Mr. Zuma was working, it worked on the basis of weakening institutions so that they would not do the job they are supposed to do.
The number of cases of bilharzia in villages around Tzaneen in Limpopo has risen to over 150. The outbreak of the waterborne disease began last week when 142 cases were reported at the Malwandla Primary School in Petanenga.
Water supply at communities such as Petanenge is inconsistent. There has been an upsurge in cases of the bilharzia water parasite in the broader area. The hardest hit since the re-emergence of the disease are schools neighboring the Lititele River.
All these villages are actually nearby neighboring villages to Petanenge. So that means that our scope of testing and screening will then increase to look at school children in those areas. But to make our life much easier and also to make the process much simpler, we call on parents and guardians to actually present their children to their nearest healthcare facilities for screening as soon as they see any symptoms or anything that could raise suspicion to the effect that the children could be having bilharzia. Because the school health program might actually take a little bit of time due to resources, but it's easier to get children tested in the nearby facility.
Some desperate residents fetch water from rivers and streams that are contaminated.
We don't have water. It's been a long time. People in Petanenge don't have access to water. Contractors who were hired to fix the pipelines have not fixed the problem. There's a disease that has been discovered from the school. Learners have bilharzia. This prompted the municipality to supply us with water using the tankers. School learners are sick at Malanga Primary. They said 145 have been affected. They said there is bilharzia. They took more samples and we haven't gotten the results.
Doctors at Letaba Hospital have treated learners who were diagnosed with the condition recently. Some of the common symptoms include abdominal pains and a urinary tract infection.
The organ that is affected the most by this parasite, it's the urinary tract, that is the bladder, the kidney, and that is where you get most of the complications that we see. It varies. It can cause, renal failure, which is the kidney not functioning the way, it should. In long term, it has also been associated with development of cancer of the bladder.
Meanwhile, the Mopani District Municipality has conducted tests in the water source at Malanga Primary School.
The results from the water samples taken from a bowl at Malanga Primary School came back as negative, which has been our stance all along, that the disease cannot be from underground water or any of our bulk water supply network.
Communities have been cautioned not to swim in rivers or streams or consume water suspected to be contaminated. SABC News, Petanenge Village in Limpopo.
The Panga Show is pleased with the growth of its agricultural trade exhibition and family experience. The show is a platform for farmers and the tourism and forestry sectors to exhibit their latest offerings. The agricultural trade show also seeks to promote young and black farmers. The 8th edition of the show will end this weekend.
A unique and diverse show, showcasing agricultural products, different exceptional livestock breeds, and high-quality sought-after cattle breeds like Angola and Simbra, among others.
It's one of the best breeds. It's a combination of Brahman and Simmental, because we're looking for meat and milk at the same time. They are very productive. They can groom the cows very easily. As quick as, like in 6 months, you can sell their cows, because you'll get plus minus 280 to 300 kilograms per cow for 6 months.
And some displaying their skills, where grooming meets performance. For award-winning sheep shearer, Lungani Maqegalani, this is more than just work.
It's always good for me to show up case in everywhere and to speak about the shearing in the peoples and mostly in the youngsters. This is a job, this is a sport, so anything can happen. Follow the sport until you are on the job.
And those in the arts, their artistic abilities on show and supported.
Yes, we are struggling now to get customers when it comes to art, since after COVID, but it's picking. I've already have 3-4 people that when I'm going back home, I will supply them. I've already sold some.
The show is for everyone,
It's nice to come and see a variety of things. We can see from the farm animals to dinosaurs to kids' rides.
Go on a roller coaster.
The show is a platform to drive change in the sector and bring about economic growth and attract investments.
What is different this year is that we've got many big players, especially the growers, the farmers. They've come in big numbers, and then we have brought as well black farmers have come in big numbers. There's a high big growth and interest, and also in manufacturing. But a lot of black farmers who are participating and showcasing their muscles to play almost equally with the big players in the economy.
The 3-day show ends on Saturday. Dumela Machoho, SABC News, Mbombela.
Right, the KwaZulu-Natal Tourism and Film Agency says the South African film industry still has a long way to go to give women an equal opportunity to enter this sector. A recent study by the Moses Kotane Institute has shown that almost 70% of the female graduates of film schools are not employed within the industry. Now, over 40% of the respondents say there has been no significant transformation of the male-dominated sector, where networking is key to land a job.
Most female producers say the film industry is still mostly male-dominated. They say the current government funding model makes opportunities scarce, and it can take years to put the money together to tell unique South African stories with global appeal. Producer Rani Sitaram believes giving some female filmmakers government subsidy will help remove the barriers.
That could so easily be taken away, even if it for a few years, so that we see the development of industry where we go into subsidizing female filmmakers, allowing them to get their product to market and allowing them not to endure risk at this time where we are still in a developing sector and developing industry.
Up-and-coming filmmaker in Durban says they have started their own company because of the discrimination they've experienced in the industry.
So I think I'm at the point where I'm just determined to make my own way with the people that I know and trust. And what I mean by that is that a few of the people that I went to school with, we started a production company because we've heard the stories about how difficult it is to break it into the industry, especially depending on what, works against you. So that could be like your disability or your sexual orientation and things like that.
The KZN Tourism and Film Authority says the agency has several programs to equip women to become future heads of departments in the production process.
Give women an opportunity where they have an interest and the skill to be employed in other departments. Your script writing, your cinematographers. We do have successful women cinematographers in our industry as well. So your HEDs are then able to employ those women, and gradually we start playing, changing the picture. But it's a long process. I mean, we've been doing this for 10, 11 years now. I can count the number of women on one hand, that we can say that, yes, these are our success stories.
Motsepe says they aim to grow the film industry in the province, which is lagging in the country. I'm Nontlakane Pomakwaza for SABC News in Durban.
Right, thousands of fans expected to gather outside the Cape Town Stadium this afternoon ahead of the Rugby Championship fourth round clash between the Springboks and the All Blacks. It is the first time the All Blacks will be playing at the Cape Town Stadium since the closure of the iconic Newlands Rugby Stadium. We now bring in our SABC News reporter Vanessa Puna. Vanessa, good afternoon. What are you experiencing? What are you seeing there at the Cape Town Stadium this afternoon?
Yes, good afternoon to you. And I must say that the weather is certainly playing the part here in the mother city. It is sunshine and absolutely no wind at the moment. And of course, this is the stage being set for that titanic clash due to take place at 5 o'clock this afternoon. We already see numbers of supporters, most of them in green and gold, but also quite a fair share of All Black supporters. I'm going to speak to some of them now on their expectations for the game and also how important it is for them to actually be here today. Joining me first is Maliza. Maliza, very warm good afternoon to you. So you have come with your entire family. So you are fully kit. How long have you looked forward to this clash?
My whole lifetime. I'm a complete South African and I expect my team to win and I'm proud of them either way, but I just want him to win and we all are standing behind him. And yeah, I came all the way from Paternoster to support them.
All the way from the West Coast, and of course this will be a very important one for the Springboks, of course, the Freedom Cup, the Rugby Championship, and of course if they win, when they win here today.
When we win.
It will of course be the fourth win on the trot against New Zealand. How would this make you feel as an ardent supporter?
I would be so proud. I feel like we're all proud in South African. They make us proud all the time. They've won the World Cup, and I feel like it's just a massive win. And as a country, we will be so proud. That is very big for us.
Thank you so much. Of course, they're ardent Springbok supporters, but let's not forget that Cape Town apparently has the highest number of All Black supporters outside of New Zealand. And of course, joining me now are a few of them. I'm speaking to Angelique today. Angelique, good day to you. Nothing's going to change your mind. You say you are always going to support All Blacks.
I will always support the All Blacks. I've grown up supporting the All Blacks, and I think this week we want revenge on last because we were this close to winning. So this week we're going to get it. The boys are going to come in hard, like from the kick start. We're going to get the boys today.
But of course, you know that both teams will be playing for quite a bit. I mean, the championship, the cup, the Freedom Cup. But of course, New Zealand also, I suppose, in this fourth encounter with the Springboks, they're hoping to at least break that winning spell of the Springboks. So what do you expect of your men and your players today?
I think our boys are very focused. I think that they are more determined more than ever, like not to let the Boks win today. And I think we're going to show everybody, what the All Blacks are made of today.
Okay, so how long ago did you actually get you? Let's talk about tickets. I mean, when you heard, we are going to be hosting the All Blacks for the first time at Cape Town Stadium, or rather at DHL Stadium, how soon did you get into that queue? I mean, how did you lay your hands on these much sought after tickets?
So I applied for the link a long time ago. I bought tickets on the second day that tickets were released. So I'm so excited. It's going to be an awesome match for me to see my boys live for the first time in South Africa. And I know we're going to kick ass today.
Where are you from?
I am from Cape Town.
Awesome stuff. Angelique, thank you so much. You enjoyed the game, of course. There we've had some fans. We just spoke to them from the West Coast all the way in Paternoster. Cape Town fans coming out. And of course today is not just the day for Cape Town, but of course South Africa. And then also the ardent supporters of New Zealand, All Blacks. They will be coming out here. The stadium at the moment, I see not too very many people inside as yet, but believe me, the queues are starting to form at the gates as these ardent supporters. I see another gentleman. Let me bring him here quickly. Sir, good day to you. Just come and join me. You're live on SABC News. Tell me a bit about your expectations for today.
Boka's going to win. That's all I'm going to say. Boka's going to win.
Surely you can say more than that, sir, because we know there's a lot on the line here today.
A lot on the plate, but the Boka's going to win. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Of course, there's some very positive Springbok supporters saying that they're not going to say too much at this point in time, but hoping and believing in that Springbok win.
And Vanessa, they have to get the timing right today. The haka can't be interrupted by an aeroplane flying over the stadium this afternoon.
No, indeed not. And of course, when we look at the program, we see that flyover is expected, but that will certainly happen before the time. And of course, no disrespect intended to the All Blacks performing the haka. And if I have anything to do with it, it's one thing that I would like to see. I've always wanted to see the haka being performed live, and today is just that opportunity.
Thank you so much for joining us there live this afternoon from outside the Cape Town Stadium. That's our SABC News reporter Vanessa Puna. This is Week in Review on the SABC News channel, and we'll see you right after this.
from the seventh wonder of the world. Whether it's land, at sea, the choppy waters of the unknown, we bring you up to speed with the latest news, traffic, and of course sports news right here on Morning Live. To all the fun moments in life as we put the hip and the hub into your step and bring you the fun right here on Morning Live. And not forgetting the reality of daily life. And we're here to challenge corruption in seeking the truth. My name is Leanne Manus, serving you everything you need to make your mornings better. I'm Sakina Kamwendo, and we bring you the latest news. Catch myself, Wosiwe Nobo, as we bring you all the latest sporting highlights, voted your trusted news station. Tune in every single weekday between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. on SABC News and SABC 2.
When the nights are quiet, Africa and the world keeps its pace. Stories unfold and nations embrace. Late Edition, where silence meets analysts and commentators bring the truth to view. Stay awake with us, for the night's tale never fades. Catch the pulse, catch the day's wave on Late Edition.
Late Edition, every evening from 9 p.m. to midnight, only on the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. Now, lawyers for the MK Party and MK parliamentary leader Dr. John Hlophe have argued that the case instituted to prevent Hlophe from serving on the Judicial Service Commission is seeking to amend the Constitution via the courts. They have further argued that there is no constitutional provision that prevents an impeached judge from serving in the public office. Now, the case has entered its second day at the Western Cape High Court, and 3 organisations are opposed to Hlophe's designation to the JSC. They include the DA, Freedom Under Law and Corruption Watch. Now, counsel for Hlophe, Advocate Thabani Masuku, has argued that only the president is barred from holding public office after removal, and not an impeached judge or the public protector. Now, Masuku says the logic of the application is anti-constitutional. Counsel for the MK, Advocate Dali Mpofu, says interdicting Hlophe from serving on the JSC would prevent him from carrying out his constitutional obligations. Mpofu further argued that the court must not be used as a tribunal of National Assembly decisions. Now, the case, of course, continues. For more on this, we are now joined live this afternoon by constitutional expert, Advocate Lefunu Nevondwe. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for being with us here in studio today.
Afternoon.
So the MK Party saying now the challenge of Hlophe's appointment is basically an abuse of the system. What are your views on this?
I think my view here is that there is no law which prevents Judge John Hlophe to become a member of parliament. But when he becomes a member of the Judicial Service Commission, it's a different story. Because in terms of the Constitution, was Section 178, 1H, requires the National Assembly, when they choose its members to serve in the JSC, to consider the fitness of those members. You will know that Judge John Hlophe is no longer a judge. Dr. John Hlophe was impeached by Parliament. And when he was impeached, it's because of the report of the Judicial Conduct Tribunal, which found him guilty of misconduct, serious misconduct. And because of that report, that report was confirmed by the JSC. And it went into Parliament to now decide on the fitness of Dr. Hlophe. And Parliament, through its majority at that time, 305, found Hlophe not fit to become a judge and not suitable. And now, Hlophe is now a member of Parliament, of the same Parliament. Now the question is he now fit to be a judge? Is not fit. And is he now fit to interview aspirant judges? Of course, he's not fit. And in terms of Section 178, 1H, the National Assembly was supposed to have considered those factors, because the MK party has the opportunity to nominate another person, not Hlophe, to become a member of Judicial Service Commission. So I don't think that Hlophe is fit in that position, because remember, the role of the JSC is to provide oversight on the judiciary and also to select suitable candidates for the position, and also to hear complaints of judges.
Yeah, so the applicants then arguing exactly that same thing. The National Assembly did not properly consider whether he should be there. Is it the same parliament or is it a new parliament? How does that work?
Is the another administration, of course, but it's the same parliament.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change. Its rules remain the same. So I'm of the view that that decision on its own of the National Assembly to select Hlophe to become a member of the JSC was irrational, was invalid, and they didn't consider relevant factors. They failed to consider relevant factors when they select Dr. Hlophe. So I believe that if the matter goes to court, the court can arrive at a different conclusion. They can set aside that decision and declare that decision unconstitutional, because I believe that the National Assembly has a duty to protect the independence of the judiciary and also to protect the courts, because remember, the JSC must also consider public confidence, whether the public will have confidence on it. Because if you have a judge who was found unfit to become a judge and who was impeached, removed from office because of serious misconduct, and the same judge is now selecting the judges, then that becomes questionable. And it also boils down to the question of ethical principles. Because, I mean, the legal profession is that profession wherein, besides you upholding the law, you must also uphold ethical legal principles. There's high standards which has been set for the JSC, and I believe that standards must always be maintained, protected, so that public outside they can start to have confidence on the JSC.
So what are some of the constitutional implications if this happens? If he ends up in a JSC hearing, it helps to decide on who the judges are. He is one individual.
Yes, that's why we are saying that it will be good for the National Assembly to reconsider its decision. Maybe to consider it, that nomination, and maybe to ensure that MK Party forward another candidate to sit in the JSC, so that it doesn't affect the credibility of the JSC, because JSC must ensure that the judiciary is independent. Because remember, there is a judgment which argued that, or which encourage bodies or state organs to ensure that whatever they do, they must also ensure that they respect the independence of the judiciary. Because public outside, they must have confidence on the judiciary, that the judiciary will interpret and also apply the law when they decide on cases before them.
Do you expect them to close this loophole so that it doesn't happen again? How will that be done?
Of course, Parliament, when they voted on Dr. Hlophe to be impeached, they were supposed to have also tightened their rules to ensure that whoever is impeached, can that person become a member of Parliament, or can that person serve on the JSC? I know that in terms of the law, there is no law which barred Dr. Hlophe to become a member of Parliament. But when it comes to become a member of JSC, the standard is high there. There are ethical principles which also need to be considered. There is also section 1781H of the Constitution which need to be considered, and also section 165 subsection 4 of the Constitution, which requires that whenever you consider somebody to be a member of the judiciary, you need to ensure that that person is fit for that purpose.
What can Parliament do in order to deal with this whole situation? Is it a legal matter? Should it be sorted out in the court?
I think Parliament was supposed to have amended its rules to consider this factor, to say if somebody has been impeached, can that person serve on the JSC or not? Because it's also important, because remember, Shope was impeached based on the Judicial Conduct Tribunal report, and also based on the recommendation of the JSC, which found him to be unfit because of the serious misconduct which he have committed during his time as a judge president of the Western Cape High Court.
What happens if this application is unsuccessful? If the court says it's okay, he can be on the JSC?
The court will find it difficult. It will find it difficult, because I believe that the court will set aside that decision of the National Assembly, because that decision remains invalid and unconstitutional. It doesn't pass the constitutional test.
Do you expect more cases like this in the next coming years, testing the boundaries of the Constitution?
Yes, we'll have more cases. Remember, at this stage, we don't have a precedent. There's no case which has been decided, which involves a judge who has been impeached. We don't have a case. But I believe that as time goes on, because our democracy is maturing, we might find more cases of this nature.
Yes, okay. So they need to, do you think there's a need to relook the Constitution then?
It's not a question of Constitution, because here is about the interpretation of the current Constitution. There's nothing wrong with the current Constitution. That's why we're saying is how you interpret it. And when we interpret it, we found it that it might be unconstitutional or invalid for Dr. Trope to be a member of JC, using the current Constitution.
So from a legal point of view, this is a clear-cut case then, according to you? It won't go into appeal and so on?
Of course. Remember, here you are challenging a constitutional provision. And of course, it might end up in the Constitutional Court to have a final say in terms of this constitutional matter. Because remember, even if the High Court set aside it still needs to be confirmed by the Constitutional Court.
So this might still take some time then?
Of course, it will take some time. It's not a clear-cut case. There's still going to be arguments on the side of the MK and arguments on the side of freedom under law and those institutions which support freedom under law.
And in the meantime, the JSC must continue with its work.
Of course, the JSC must continue with its work, because, I mean, there are candidates which need to be considered in October next month, so the work must continue. But this is a real test for our Constitution and for our constitutional democracy.
So it's an important case, and we're watching it. Thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon and for enlightening us on the legalities of it all. That was the constitutional expert advocate Lufuno Nevondwe, and that was our story this afternoon. Talking to him, this is the Week in Review on the SABC News Channel. We'll see you right after this. Welcome back. Now, Deputy President Paul Mashatile says police must use their weapons when confronted by brazen killing criminals. He was answering oral questions in the National Assembly. He also says government has a comprehensive crime-fighting plan that will be finalised next week, Thursday, and has been presented to Cabinet.
Some of the questions faced by Mashatile were about incidents of exchange of fire and fatal shootings between police and alleged criminals.
Now, reports have it that the fire altercations between the alleged criminals and police arise when police conduct investigations, and they are welcomed by aggressive attack from those criminals.
The Deputy President says in this financial year, already 21 police have died at the hands of criminals, while in the previous financial year, the figure was 35. He adds that police have been given a national instruction regulating the use of force when effecting an arrest.
We don't want the police force or police service to be a killing machine. Police are trained to protect. But in a situation where they are confronted by these, brazen killing criminals, they must use their weapons. Otherwise, they are going to die.
Mashatile was also quizzed about police being reactionary and the lack of coordination between them and the intelligence agency.
What specific actions will you take to improve inter-agency collaboration and ensure a more proactive approach to preventing such incidents in future?
Mashatile also said that government is looking at amending or reviewing legislation to strengthen the work of the police when they encounter violent criminals.
The criminals may think they are winning, but not for long. As I said earlier, we are aware they are very brazen. They think that it's free for all. That is coming to an end. Wait for the plan.
In conclusion, Mashatile said the fight against crime will be more intelligence-driven and well-resourced, with 10,000 new recruits that will be trained. Lula Mamatya, SABC News, Parliament.
Eskom has been working around the clock to ensure that South Africa will have no load shedding this summer. And this is according to Acting Minister in the Presidency, Ramaphosa, who briefed the media on Wednesday's cabinet meeting. She says cabinet has commended Eskom, its board, management and all its staff for their work.
More electrons are being added to the grid as Eskom aims to keep unplanned losses at power stations below 13,000 megawatts.
Government continues to execute the energy plan or energy action plan, which has been instrumental in reducing the frequency of load shedding through planned maintenance of Eskom's power generation fleet.
Coming off the heels of Police Minister Senzo Mchunu comments about the poor state of crime intelligence in the country. Ramaphosa said Cabinet had noted the latest quarterly crime stats from April 2024 to June 2024. She said government is implementing a holistic approach to crime fighting in the country. This includes a zero-tolerance approach against extortion.
Extortion does not just harm individuals, it undermines our entire economy as well. By fighting this crime, we are protecting jobs, encouraging investment and promoting economic growth. We are empowering communities to stand up against extortion.
Ramaphosa also said Cabinet applauded the 15-year sentence of the former head of engineering at PRASA, Daniel Mtimkulu. On the issue of greylisting, Cabinet has received an update report after being added to the Financial Action Task Force. She said of the 20 technical compliance requirement deficiency noted by the FATF, 15 have already been fully addressed. Of the 22 actions identified as deficiencies on effectiveness, 8 have been fully addressed. The country has until February next year to address all these deficiencies.
Right. Parliament has heard how gambling is affecting some social grant recipients who queue at gambling sites on payday. The Minister of Social Development faced a barrage of questions on the role of the department in addressing the problem. As SABC News parliamentary reporter Mercedes Besant reports, Social Development is one of the social cluster ministries that answered oral questions in the National Assembly.
May we be seated? The first question posed by Raisa Mzansi is whether social development has identified gambling as one of the priority social ills. The ministry says the department only deals with all social ills that falls within its mandate, scope and capacity.
In responding to the question, Honorable Speaker, we would all know that Department of Social Development deals with all kinds of social ills that falls within its mandate, scope and capacity. The approach in dealing with social ills is informed by the prevalence in particular provinces. However, gambling as a social ill falls within the mandate of Department of Trade and Competition. Honorable Speaker, this is informed by the fact that the trade and industry took upon itself to establish a line where people can be able to phone and get some assistance. As such, they do have that landline that is operating 24/7 to make sure that people who get themselves into this predicament, they can be able to be assisted.
But it seems the minister's response was not good enough, as this addiction affects grant recipients. However, she stuck to the point.
We see many recipients of social grants. On the day that they receive social grants, they are queuing at sports betting sites. I'm asking whether yourself, maybe let me not ask the department, whether yourself as a minister, on the day that social grants are being paid and you see the recipients queuing in the gambling sites, whether you see that as a social ill, and what are you going to do about it? Because it's not enough for you to say that it belongs in the Department of Trade and Industry.
Honorable Speaker, indeed, our Department of Social Development comes across various forms of addiction, such as pornography, work-seeking pain, shopping addiction, sex addiction, and many more. We do refer them to the relevant institutions and organizations. However, the department only addresses addictions that are within its mandate. That is it, Honorable Member.
Other questions arose about the prevalence of gambling amongst the recipients and preventative measures.
Honourable Minister, does the department have data on the prevalence of gambling among grant recipients, and what initiatives has the department embarked upon in partnership with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition and other stakeholders to offer gambling prevention programs? If not, what work is happening in this regard?
Indeed, we agree with the question that indeed our country has been caught up with kind of a scourge in this regard. As the department, we have started a process wherein we start to talk with our sister departments in making sure that we come up with a coordinating strategy to deal with this. This, Honorable Chair, is indeed beyond our mandate. Then it will seek some kind of strategy of IGR when we can talk with our sister departments as well as the second and third spheres of government, because indeed this happens where our people get their grants as well as our people stay. We are committed to deal with this matter.
For other lawmakers, some social grant recipients, especially the elderly, are forced by socio-economic circumstances that drive them to the gambling site.
These old people are not going there to the casinos because they have a gambling problem. On the contrary, they go there because see if they can make a few more rands. Minister, our old people must be exempted from paying water rates and electricity. Food prices are sky high and they can't cope with this anymore. Minister, you need to address these issues so that old people don't have to go to the casino and try to make more money. Have laws in place is good, but it's not going to assist our poor people. Unemployment is making it worse because old people must maintain these whole families with their grant money.
Dolashe noted and agreed with Mare that interventions are needed to help the elderly.
Honorable Member talks to many policies that belong to our sister departments, where you will talk about the indigent grants or the people who are supposed to get some kind of discounts in the services that they are supposed to do. I guess this will need more than one department, which is DSD, because it talks to COGTA, it talks to water, and all that departments. I wish to say we will initiate these discussions. We will initiate the discussions because of the gravity of the matter and the fact that majority of people that are trapped into that are the grant recipients. We agree.
Minister. Other social cluster ministries that also answered questions included basic as well as higher education. Mercedes Besant, SABC News, Parliament.
That is cool. The former president of the EFF Student Command, Paul Morulane, has branded some party members as cowards. Morulane says they rely on the leadership to disseminate ideas even without proper information. He says 90% of the Central Command team members do not agree with the EFF's messaging on migration. One of the EFF's policies is not to chase away foreigners who are flocking to South Africa. Now, Morulane this week left the EFF to join the MK party.
Fighters are cowards, you know. They are cowards in a sense that they are outsourcing the thinking to the leadership. You saw the attacks that you saw on social media, Twitter, I can tell you they were sanctioned. If you check some of the members of the Central Command team and parliamentarians, they got an instruction that attack, you know, and they attacked, unfortunately, without a proper information. I'm saying if you exist in an organization, people must be allowed to state their issues, to give their views and all of that. Let me give you a practical example. 90% of the fighters on the ground, including 90% of the Central Command team members, do not agree with the messaging. I'm saying messaging on migration. You can't contradict yourself and say that there must be creative ways of foreigners flocking on the southern tip of the continent. Remember, we want to have regulations where we know how many foreigners we have and all of that. Don't I want the United States of Africa? I want it, but not a chaotic United States of Africa where there's no accountability and regulation from our government. It should be political parties championing matters of relegation. You can't abdicate responsibilities and say, no, it must be government and all of that. I'm impressed with the articulation of influence, but I'm saying it is not in line with what Julius Malema is saying. Julius Malema says, let's have creative ways Zimbabweans to enter here. Whereas Mbuyiseni Ndlozi says, why not speaking of an open border policy without regulation? For me, it's a contradiction.
Now, MK Party MP Lucky Montana says the conviction and sentencing to 15 years imprisonment of the former PRASA executive Daniel Mtimkulu is a travesty of justice. Montana says he stands by Mtimkulu and he has contacted his family and the lawyers. Now, together they will fight Mtimkulu's conviction and sentence in the highest court of the land. In 2020, Montana, who was the chief executive of PRASA, defended Mtimkulu after more than 2 billion rand was spent on trains that were allegedly unsuitable for the country's rail network.
I think I see a travesty of justice. I think that, we've read many stories about many people in South Africa who falsified their qualifications. We heard about the pilot, the white pilot who flew our planes for 20 years. They never went to jail. We heard the story of one of our leaders, Dr. Paulo Jordan, who was found to have falsified his qualifications. None of these people have been sent to jail. And let me emphasize, even though I don't want to go into details, because I think I outlined my position in the statement that I issued, and I agreed with my party that I will not dwell into detail about this matter. But Daniel Mtimkulu never committed fraud. He may have called himself a doctor, and I spoke to him about that long after I've left PRASA, because he only came out after I've left PRASA. But he's a competent guy. He's highly experienced. And I know that the lies that people have been told that Daniel Mtimkulu is Montana's fake engineer, brought him to PRASA. I never recruited Mtimkulu. I found him in Metro Rail before even there was PRASA. But if you want to ask me, what a guy, what a competent guy, what Daniel Mtimkulu is someone who makes things happen. Yeah. If you look in the area of maintenance, he has done tremendous things, not only for Metro Rail or PRASA, but for South Africa, for African railways. And I think it's sad, but let me assure you, I've spoken to his family, I've spoken to lawyers, and I've made it clear that I'll continue to fight for him. Yeah. My task, my priority in the next week is to see him out of prison and to petition the next highest court so that he can fight this grave injustice. And I'm happy. I'm unhappy, as I said in my statement. My heart bleeds for this young man. Yeah, there are those who celebrate, but let me also say, Clement, that when I spoke about Daniel and said because he's a black engineer, there are many what we call white engineers People who don't even have, who are not what I call in my statement, graduate engineers, who went through apprenticeship. They're not engineers in that true sense of the word.
Yeah.
Yet they are going so hard on Daniel Mtimkulu. A young guy, has made a contribution. So
Yeah.
I'll stand with him till the end. I know that some in the media will make noise, but I'll never change my stance on this matter.
In the past 30 years, South Africa has seen women who have broken through the barriers and spaces previously dominated by men. Nomsebenzi Tsotsobe is one of those who stand tall as a pioneer in women's sport. She was selected as the first captain for the women's national side when women's rugby struggled for recognition. Her family's esteemed sporting legacy provided a solid foundation as she championed her team and spearheaded pivotal changes within the sport.
Nomsebenzi Tsotsobe's dedication and perseverance was instrumental in shaping the trajectory of Springboks women's rugby, propelling it towards newfound recognition and success. Playing in the flank position, Tsotsobe started her career playing for the Hilltop Eagles club in the Eastern Cape. She excelled at club and provincial level, becoming the captain of Eastern Province in 2002. But the 29th of May 2004 is a day for the history books. On that day, she walked her team on the grand international stage to play their first test match, a game against Wales.
The first time that I won the Springbok colours, the green and gold, that was the first time that I played, that I sang Nkosi Sikelela Africa. In my home ground, where I was born, at Cox Stadium, where my father played. So all of those emotions were running deep, and truly and honestly, it was the only time that I said to myself, you've made it. You've made yourself proud, Nomsebenzi. You've got to be able to be proud. And I don't want to lie, not everything I felt at that time, but when that whistle went off, I don't know if I was in the game or I was still in a moment, but the 80 minutes, I was just not tired. And I felt everything when I was at the hotel, and then I thought, okay, that was the history. We've made history, because women's rugby at that time, we were called Springbok Women. We were no longer called Springbok 15, Invitation 15. We were called Springbok Women. We won green and gold. We sang Nkosi Sikelele Africa. That was my very best moment.
Her leadership qualities continued to shine through as she traversed the international stage. For those who got to play with her on the field, she led with distinction and excellence.
She taught us to go to school, because currently I'm a manager for the women's rugby, and I didn't get that job just in J. Because the requirements was to have a qualification because she taught us that school goes a long way. So we knew that there's life after rugby, because we don't play rugby anymore, but we have life because of we went to school, we have our qualification. So she taught us very well that.
She was firm and harsh. She didn't like to be beaten. But at that time, unfortunately, because we were still starting playing, so we were losing every now and then. But she would cry and tell us, you know what, if we can't play, let's stop them. They can't be scoring like every now and then. So she's got that thing in her that boosts you guys, it gives you that oomph. Guys, she will cry and say, I understand, you guys are tired, I understand, we just started playing. But she'll go that thing, that psych you up for the game. She was that captain for me.
Getting to play the game she loves took some effort, and convincing the men who coached her to initially open the door for young girls to play under his tutelage. But Tobile Ndundra says her success in sport is not a surprise, as he saw her talent immediately.
Nomsebenzi has always shown traits of leadership. From the time she played in the club, she would say, I want to play for SA one day. And she worked hard to ensure that she got there. She gave her best at club level. She was always the first one to arrive and the last one to leave. She would ask me to train her more after each practice, because she wanted to be the best and later she became the lady she always hoped to be.
The rugby roots run deep in the Tsotsobe household. Nomsebenzi's mother, Nomgqibelo, is a former regional coordinator for women's rugby in Gqeberha, and her father, Toto, played representative rugby in the 70s.
And that blazer was donned on her, I was very excited because we had achieved what we wanted for so long. And we introduced this thing with the ladies that you are playing rugby. That does not change you as a person. You are a lady, but you enjoy playing the game. So don't change. So I was very excited. I felt that even my late husband, he should be happy where he is. That here, my legacy is moving forward.
Although she has hung her boots, her legacy still lives on through the many lives she continues to inspire from the township where it all started. Her presence still reverberates through the airwaves as a closer rugby commentator for men and women's versions of the game. Nomsebenzi is also an analyst for Panga magazine and an SA rugby commissioner. And she continues to advocate for chasing your dreams.
I can say, if you dream about it, put it on paper and act on it. It's an unfortunate thing. Everyone is busy. We must just stop complaining. Let's just wake up from the dream, write it down, and act on it. Even if it's small steps, but act on it. But you can't sit in your couch in a comfort zone and say you want it. You're just not going to get it. No one cares.
Nomsebenzi is also versatile, a woman of many talents. In 2005, she was chosen as one of 10 beauties of sport in a contest run by the magazine South African Sports Illustrated. Lerato Fekisi, SABC News, Gqeberha.
Right, that's it for today. Join the team again tomorrow at 12 for the week ahead. The news continues at the top of the hour. Take care.